Hey there, Bliss Seekers. Welcome back to A Holistic Journey Choose Your Hard podcast. I'm Steph, your guide on this wild, wonderful, and sometimes crazy adventure that we call life. And I'm so grateful that you have joined me on this journey where we explore the incredible power of the mind and its ability to transform our lives for the better. This is a safe space of wholeness, growth, and connection where we dive into motivational insights, mindfulness life practices, both mental and physical, holistic modalities, and some intuitive guidance through oracle decks, all encompassing the mind, body, and universal connection designed to unlock your full potential. And I know it's been a while. I've been on a bit of a hiatus, but I've been on a self discovery journey. Um, really, I've been on a self discovery journey for like 2 to 3 years now, because most of my life I realized I was living it based on other people's expectations. How they wanted me to live my life. I mean, it was a matter of like, oh, maybe if I wanted to move or something, I didn't because someone said that's not a good idea, or you shouldn't do this, or don't invest in this for college, or whatever it may be, right? Or you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Everybody's always got something to say, some sort of opinion, right? But our old narratives and traumas say, do as you're told. So um, I wasn't really living up to my own standards and my own sense of being, because I had no idea who I was. Like at some point in my life, I realized, um, shit, I don't know who the fuck I am anymore. Um, and when you get to that point of not knowing who you are and feeling incredibly lost, it's a hard spot to be in. It's a very hard spot to be in because then it's like, okay, well, if I don't know who I am, what is the purpose of even being here, right? Trigger warning, right? But uh, you know, so I started this journey to for healing, and with my self discovery journey, I found that all roads lead back to self love. No matter what kind of healing I was going to do, the root of all healing is self love, because the relationship that we have with ourselves sets the tone for every relationship that we have in our lives. When you love yourself, you just move differently. You don't you don't chase breadcrumbs. You don't settle. You don't um you don't doubt yourself. You don't allow people to treat you certain way. And let me clarify there. Let me back that up. Other people are going to treat you however they're going to treat you. You cannot control anything outside of yourself. That's another big component to that healing, is understanding we don't have control over anything or anyone but ourselves. With self-love, you can control how others affect you when they treat you certain ways. So for me, like I had realized, oh man, I have a lot of people in my life that hurt me, that didn't treat me very well, and I was allowing it, you know. Um, or maybe I'm chasing something wasn't um, that just wasn't flourishing, right? It wasn't turning into something that was pouring back into me. Um, and so, like, when we talk about self-love, most people think, oh, well, that's, getting your mani pedi and getting a little bubble bath and treat yourself. And yes, okay, that's all self-love. Um, Treating yourself, yes, that's all self-love. But self-love is not just about bubble baths and face masks. It's about boundaries, discernment, inner kindness. It's about how you talk to yourself and having the courage to walk away from what's misaligned and having the discernment to see what is aligned, right? Because it's important. I realized maybe I tried to set boundaries back in the day, but I never had the intent. I didn't have the intent to follow through with any of my boundaries. And also, there are boundaries that we set, or we call them boundaries. They're really limitations that we set within our minds, within ourselves, that stop us from stepping into our best version of ourselves as well, you know? And then the way that we speak to ourselves, it becomes our inner reality. And then our outer experience reflects that. So it's like this massive ripple effect that happens when you have or don't have that self love, that self value, that self worth, right? Just think about it for a moment, because the relationship that you have with yourself touches everything. It touches how you show up in relationships, work, love, friendships, whatever, all of those kinds of relationships. Um, what you allow, what you don't allow, right? Because again, we can't control how someone treats you, but you can control what you allow into your life, you know? It in, it affects how you handle conflict. It affects how you treat your body, what you believe you're worthy of, right? Like if you don't believe that you're going to get, jobs or whatever because you think you're terrible, okay, then you're right. Like whether you think you are, you think you aren't, you're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You're always right. So it's imperative to kind of get to that root of self love, having that self love for yourself, right? Because how we perceive the world comes from how we perceive ourselves, because then we start to really think when it comes to everything that happens around us, we start to think, okay, is everything happening for us or against us? I think was it Wayne Dyer that said, and I don't have the quote in front of me, so hopefully I don't butcher it, but it's something like, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But I would add something to that, because it all comes from how you view yourself. Because if you view yourself in a manner that says, oh, well, I'm worthless, I'm not enough, I'm, you know, and I summarize not enough, but you can not smart enough, not pretty enough, not big enough, not small enough, not tall enough, not short enough, whatever, not enough, right? If you see yourself that way, then life becomes dark. Everything happens against you. You start to focus on the things that aren't going right because your brain starts to validate you, whether you think that things are happening for you or against you, right? Um, but if you shift that and you think, oh, I'm amazing, like I love myself. I'm totally worthy and deserving of good things to happen to me. Then you start to notice the good things that are happening for you, right? Even if it's challenging moments, how they happen for you, you start to recognize that. You start to see through different lens. And so the things you look at change. Um, it affects how you show up for others. If others come to you and they ask your advice because, yeah, We tend to give advice, right? Our friends, our families, they come to us or whatever. We go to them. We're always chit-chatting to somebody like, "Oh my gosh, what do we do?" You know, well, our advice is based on our experience. And if we're coming from a place of pain and hurt, we really aren't being objective and giving good advice. I guarantee you that. I know probably, some of you are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I give amazing advice. Okay, sure. Yeah. Let's be radically transparent and honest with ourselves, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, if you are hurt and, someone walked out on you and someone else is asking, for guidance because then that happened to them. It's like, oh, yeah, well, all men are terrible because every man has walked out on me. And so they all suck. And so, yes. And your man walked out on you too? Okay, yeah, because men are suck because they're terrible. And so don't even date men. Let's go lesbo. I don't know why I said that, but let's just throw that out. That's just an example, okay? That's I mean, I'm just throwing whatever's coming off the cuff. Sorry, but you know, what an example. Anyways, you see what I'm saying? Like it's all based on our experience. Um, I think I was telling someone earlier in the year about how like let's say, we're standing in front of a painting and the painting is red. There's red in the painting. You have two friends, one on the left, one on the right, and one is experiencing challenges that are making that person angry, right? Then what they're seeing is a lot of anger in there. They're like, oh man, yeah, I see a lot of anger and hate. And that's what the red signifies. And that's all that. And then on the right, that person is experiencing, they're in an amazing relationship, so full of love, pouring into each other. And they're like, oh my gosh, I see so much love. Like the red reminds me of hearts. And I see all this love. And so like right, we're looking at the same thing, but we're seeing it differently because of our experiences. And so we are also showing up for others based on our experiences as well. And I know we try to be as objective as possible, but the reality is that's not how it works. It's always from our experiences, unless you work on, that skill, because it is a skill that you work on to try to, be an observer of life and give objective advice. But if you're deep in those emotions are literally ruminating and controlling your life. There's no way you're giving good advice. There's no way you're giving advice that's not being affected. Let me reword that, because you might be giving good advice if it's like you're happy all that time. But there's no way that you're not being affected by your emotions. Your internal dialogue, it affects your perception. Is the world kind or cruel? Are people threats or are they mirrors? Are they here to hurt me or are they here to show me the possibility of what I could step into? Or are they here to show me the things that, I need to work on within myself to step into the best version of myself? You know, if you're not anchored in love for yourself, you'll also bend yourself to fit other people's narratives, even if it breaks you. That's what I was doing for like literally all of my life ever since I was young, is just constantly bending to every fucking body until I realized, wait a minute, I'm my own person. Like I can make my own choices. I do not have to be shackled by the constraints of other people's control. I'm not under their control. Wait a minute. I can control myself. Whoa. And I can make decisions for myself. And yes, maybe my choices might hurt other people when I start to, step into my self-love, meaning that might mean I walk away from certain relationships that are toxic, you know, that but that's what you got to do for you, for your peace. because if you don't love yourself, you start to settle in love, in work, in life, and that doesn't bring joy. That doesn't bring happiness. And I know that that comes from within also, but you can't quite like that flame from within if you don't have the love to spark the fire with. Does that make sense? So, and then on the other side, if you do love yourself, you start to choose better. You walk away from what hurts. Even if you love them, you stop begging. You stop chasing for someone to love you, to pick you, to want you. You become the love. You stop choosing that outside of yourself. You become more discerning of what you're deserving of. You stop allowing people to gaslight you, manipulate you, all of that. And then it begs all the question, right? Well, why do we struggle so much with self-love, right? Well, because we get so stuck in our heads. We get fogged up by self-doubt and all of those old stories and all of that trauma from, our childhood trauma, right? And so those old stories, they ruminate in our heads so much so we don't see ourselves clearly. We lose track of who we are. And then we become our harshest critics because yes, other people may say things, but we're the ones that keep them. We're the ones that like, whoop, okay, thank you for that really mean phrase where you told me that I'm shit and I'm not witty and I'm not smart and I'm not whatever. And let me file that away and let me just put it in my drawer, my inner head drawer that I could go ahead and pop open every day just to remind myself that you said that. And so then we start to say shit to ourselves that we would never say to someone that we love. And then we wonder why we're exhausted. I'm exhausted just saying that. Burnt out, you know, hurt. So it boils down. It becomes, and this is a question that I've heard, and even I asked myself when I started my journey, how do I even start loving myself? Like I don't even know where to start. And that's valid. That is a valid question because we were never taught how to love ourselves. So one of my favorite techniques is to step outside of yourself. This is, I feel, one of the best starting points for self-love. Because when you step outside of yourself, you get to see yourself from an outside point of view. Okay, so what do you mean? What do you mean? All right, so this is what you do. You close your eyes and you imagine yourself sitting in your home or even a new space in your mind's eye where maybe it's like a little cabin by a waterfall or something. Like just start to picture a place somewhere where you feel safe, safe to be your true radical self and have an honest and transparent conversation without filters. And then invite yourself over for a cup of coffee or tea in your mind's eye or mimosa, pina colada, whatever you want. Okay. Whatever you want, my friend. But invite yourself over as an external person. Like literally imagine yourself as someone that you love with your whole heart that you would never ever want to see in pain and hurting or beating up on themselves in such a depressed state of mind, whether that's like picture yourself coming in and that self is your daughter, is your son, is your niece, is your nephew, is your uncle, is your uh, grandpa, whatever, Whomever it is that you fucking love dearly, deeply, and that you would never, ever want to see in pain. Okay. And then invite them over, have them sit down for that little cup of coffee, that little cup of tea, and have a chat. You're going to look at yourself through their eyes. You're going to become the observer of your reality as if you're watching a movie playing out, and you're no longer an active participant. You're the observer. Okay? This person coming in, self, has been living your life. And then ask your external self some questions depending on your current situation that is bringing you grief and turmoil. Ask some questions, like, for example, let's say relationships. Okay, because we all have relationship problems, and everything everything is a relationship problem if we really dive into that. But we won't dive into that tonight. But like, everything is all about relationships, the relationship to self, the relationship to your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss, whatever. So let's get into relationships. So let's say that the issue is you are chasing someone and you're putting your life on hold for someone that wouldn't do or isn't doing the same thing for you. They're not pouring back that love into you. Then objectively ask self, who is sitting in front of you, why the fuck are you doing this? And then ask yourself if you would tell them to keep chasing someone who won't even meet them halfway. Would you tell them to put their dreams, their body, their soul on hold for someone who's barely showing up, if at all? Would you? Hell no, right? Like, I don't think there's anybody that would say, yes, keep pining over that person, put your entire life on hold, stop doing the things that you need to do for yourself, stop taking care of yourself, like, stop moving forward, stop healing, like, don't worry, like, keep chasing this person. Eventually they'll come back to you. Like, hell no. You would say, babe, what are you doing? You are worth so much more than this. You don't deserve this. Walk away from the breadcrumbs because, baby, you deserve the whole fucking feast that you've been laying out. Okay? You'd give them, you'd give self that's sitting right across from you. You'd give them grace. You'd give them love. You'd give them strength, and you would give them fierce, radical truth because you know that they need it. Okay? And then what you want to do is continue the conversation a little bit deeper. Like, ask self, okay, what are you afraid will happen if you stop chasing them? What are you afraid will happen if you stop putting your life on hold? Stop searching for breadcrumbs and just sit with that response for a moment. Let self answer and sit with that response for a moment. Because that response right there, that right there is the bridge. It is a bridge. I won't say the bridge. We're going to have a lot of bridges, okay? Because healing takes a lot of bridges, okay? Healing is not just one thing, right? Yes, I do believe it all goes back to self love, but in different ways. There's different roads, there's different bridges. So the response that they give you on their fear, that response is a bridge that will be built to find yourself back to self love. The same thing, right? Let's talk about another scenario. Let's say, um, you're working at a job where your boss gaslights you. Okay, well, go into your mind's eye, into your little cabin with the waterfall. I love waterfalls. And so that's why we're going to have a waterfall in this one, but you don't have to have a waterfall in yours, okay? I also love nature. So we're going to the cabin in the woods. Um, Sorry. So tangent. Whoop. Get back to. So okay. So let's say the scenario is, you're working at a job where your boss gaslights you, right? That Go to your little cabin, close your eyes, Go into your little cabin by the waterfall in your mind's eye and invite self over. Remember, it's not you. And think about whether you would tell them to stay right where they are and keep getting belittled and gaslit and used, or if you would ask them lovingly, why the fuck are you putting up with someone treating you this way? Like why would you continue to let another human being treat you like you are less just for some money? Like, what would happen if you quit that job and looked for something else? What are you afraid will happen if you quit that job and you walked out today in this moment? Then sit with that response again as a bridge to self love. Because chances are, whatever the old narrative fears are that come up, they are what is really needing to be faced in order to step into your best self and a life that you fucking love. Because if we take a look at, you know, the love scenario, maybe the fear that comes up when you ask that question, what are you afraid will happen if you stop chasing that person? Oh, well, then I'll have to learn to be with someone new, and what if they leave me again? Like, what if I'm left again, right? Maybe you discover it's an abandonment mood that needs to be, faced. Or with the job scenario, well, if I leave this job, like, I'm not going to be able to find another job. Like, I don't know these other skills. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough to learn something new, or to try something new, or to get something new. Like, it's going to be impossible for me to find a job out there. you know Nobody's hiring. Spoiler alert, everybody's fucking hiring. Everybody fucking needs somebody. There are like a bajillion jobs out there. So, you're gonna get it, just believe. But that is a good way to really face the root of whatever that block is that's not allowing you to step into your best self and a life that you fucking love, and a person that you fucking love. I don't mean outside of you. I mean you. You. So it's a good way, I feel like, because if we start to see outside of ourselves as someone else, then we can start to work on giving ourselves compassion, because it's so easy to give compassion away to someone else, but we make it so difficult to give it to ourselves. So this is kind of like a trick of the mind, where we're essentially giving it to ourselves, but under the guise of giving it away to someone else. You see what I'm saying here? So, and then that way we can also start better discerning how we show up in the world, how we allow the way others treat us to affect us, and be more aware of how we treat ourselves. And then the trick is, of course, like anything else, you have to practice it. It is a practice. Self love is a muscle. It is, or you can think of it as a muscle, right? Because it is the mind. The mind is a muscle. So it's not a magical download. You don't just all of a sudden, like, whoop, I got an epiphany. Although sometimes after a little bit of practicing, like, whoop, yeah, one day you do wake up and, like, oh, the fog has cleared. Oh shit. I get it now. All these things that I've been saying for the past like 30 days to myself now finally clicks and makes fucking sense. Yes. Um so because the rewiring of old thought loops and narratives, they take a moment. It takes a little bit of time. I'm not saying it's going to take you years, right? It depends on the work that you put in. But and it might not click right away at first if you're, new to starting to finally face yourself really and go inwards. But the more that you develop that muscle, the better you get at shifting and changing your thought process after self reflection like this. Because, like, even for me, like, it took me forever. It took me a moment. I don't want to say that. That's discouraging. Hold on. Whoop, let's back up. It didn't take me forever. let's let's be honest. It didn't take me forever. It did take me a moment for it to finally click. And then after practicing through it and working through it, now when I do self-reflect, it it is it is a quicker process. It is a much quicker process for me to learn the lesson, see what it is that I needed to learn, and get back to self-love so that I can shift, change my life, make moves, make better choices for myself. Because it's like working out, right? You're not just going to walk into the gym and the first time be able to lift 50-pound dumbbells and curl them, right? That's, I mean, maybe if you're like the strongest man on earth or something like that, but, or the strongest woman on earth. Hey, okay, women, women are strong too. Um, but you're not just going to walk in there and like start curling that right away if you've never stepped foot in a gym. You're probably going to have to start with like a 5-pound dumbbell, maybe even a 2-pound dumbbell. That is okay. That there is no problem with that. And the more that you work on it, eventually you'll get to that 50. So to kind of recap this exercise, this is my favorite exercise. And I feel like this is the best way to start because you want to get out of yourself to be able to heal yourself. Because we are our own, we create our own um, turmoil. I don't know why that word keeps coming up, but we create our own challenges and we heal our own limitations as well. So we create our own suffering. That's the word I'm looking for. Boop. Thank you, universe. We create our own suffering. And so we can also heal it. We really, really can. But you have to make the choice to do that and then get back to that self-love because it all starts with you and your relationship to the self. So to summarize this exercise, you want to picture yourself as someone that you deeply love, whether it's your kid or your niece or your soul sister, your best friend, whatever, whomever, my friend, and watch yourself from the outside, become that observer of your life, invite them over for a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, ask, what advice would you give them? And then ask them, what are they afraid will happen if they stop doing XYZ or if they do the thing, whatever it is, if they do or don't do the thing, right? If they stop doing this, so with those two scenarios, if they stop chasing this person or if they quit, right? So if they do or don't do the thing, depending on what your experience is. And actually, something even helps, that helps even more, is to say it out loud, you know, so that you can receive that message as you. And I know I said, have the combo in your mind's eye, but yes, have the combo in your mind's eye, but also speak out loud. Say it out loud because words spoken out loud, they resonate and they vibrate with more intensity back to your mind, back to your body, back to yourself than the thoughts that you think. It is a different vibration. It's a more powerful vibration. That's why, they say, hey, it's important to be mindful of what you say out loud about yourself. Like, don't joke out loud about yourself and say, yeah, I'm so stupid, because boop, that is a resonance that you are then sending back into yourself. And so it's a different vibration. So it's important. So we have to be present and mindful about the things that we say to or about ourselves out loud. So say it out loud. And this external lens, it helps override the inner critic and shift into compassion. So it's another technique that we can do for self-love. I think I've said this before in a previous one, but I really actually really love this exercise, mirror work. It is one of the most powerful tools. I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds awkward, but it is transformative. Like, I swear to the goddess, it is so fucking transformative to sit in front of the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes, and say, I love you. And even put your hand on your heart so that you can feel your heart, so that you can feel yourself and say, I love you, or you didn't deserve that, or you're still worthy even when you mess up. Or, I'm learning to love you more every day. And if you feel something coming up and you start to cry, then cry. But put your hand on your heart, keep your hand on your heart to really give yourself that hug, that love, and really connect with your soul as you speak to your reflection. And even if you cry, if you don't believe it yet, even if you don't believe any of the words that you're saying, especially then, keep going, because what you're doing is you're reprogramming your mind and you're healing the disconnect. You're healing that lack of trust within yourself. So, and I know it sounds silly. What I used to do is I actually, like, I would take some of those phrases and I would put them on sticky notes. And I put the sticky notes on my mirror all the way around the edges so that I could have them there. And I would force myself, because that's the hardest thing. You don't want to look at yourself sometimes when you're, in that depressive state of mind, but do it. Even if it feels weird, if it feels stupid, if it feels silly, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you that in 30 days, you're going to see yourself differently. I promise you that. That is a straight up guarantee. Um, so do the thing. Then a last technique that I'll go over on self love is, start with some little micro acts of love. Love on yourself. And what I mean is, and it doesn't have to be big and fancy. So I don't mean like, well, okay, I'm going to go to a day spa and I'm going to spend thousands of dollars and I'm going to do this, or like, no, it doesn't have to be big and fancy. It can start with just one decision a day that says, I matter, that reminds you you matter. Whether it's making sure to drink enough water, set yourself an alarm. I'm getting better at that. Set yourself an alarm to drink enough water, or maybe turning off your phone for a little bit of peace for a small moment throughout the end of the day, or in the middle of the day or something, or going out for a walk, maybe. Um, Saying no to something that you really want to say no to, or saying yes to something that you really want to say yes to. Ask yourself if it feels good. Does it make you feel good when you do it? Or, if not, like, don't do it. Right? If you don't want to do it, don't fucking do it. Don't force yourself to do something you don't want to do. But be radically, it calls for being radically transparent and honest with yourself about what you want, who you are. And every time that you choose you, again, you start to build that trust with yourself. And then as you build that self love, right? These three techniques, they're fucking amazing. As you build that self love, you start noticing red flags faster. You stop needing to prove your worth to people who can't see it. You begin to feel peace in your own body, because isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? It's not really joy or happiness, it's peace. Peace is the seed for that joy, that love, that happiness, right? We want that peace. You start to gain discernment, like, oh no, I used to tolerate that, but not no more. You start to notice when people are gaslighting you. You start to notice when people are breadcrumbing you. You notice when they're trying to manipulate you. You start to notice what helps ignite the joy inside of you and what doesn't. Literally, the whole world starts to shift because you're no longer at war with yourself. So the final truth is, this is what I have been finding and what I have found in my self-discovery journey is that you are already loved. You don't have to earn it. That's just an old narrative and survival mechanism that we learned as children, but we can unlearn it, right? All the things that we learned, all the patterns that we have, we learned them, meaning we can unlearn them and learn something new. All you really have to do is you just have to remember. And also remember that it's not your job to be perfect. It's your job to be real and to show up for yourself the way that you wish others had. And you don't have to wait to be healed or to feel healed to start loving yourself. That is a part of the healing process. And you don't have to wait to feel healed to allow others to love you the way that you deserve or treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. Start now because the healing happens in the loving. That's where it happens. It happens in the loving. That's what I have found. So I hope this helps. Um, Before we wrap up, I do want to take a moment to connect with the energy of the universe because mindfulness isn't just about being present in your body and your mind. It is also about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything, your thoughts, your emotions, your physical self, and the energy of the world around you. Because when we work on our mind, our body, our soul connection, we open ourselves up to clarity, to guidance, and to alignment. So, if you want to stick around for this part, you're welcome to. If not, I thank you so much for being here. And like I said, I hope that this helps. Um, if you are sticking around for the message and guidance from your higher self, what your higher self wants you to know, your spirit team, God, the universe, whatever you want to, however it is that you connect to whatever it is that you connect to, right? Um, then stick around and you'll know within the first few minutes if this message is for you, if it resonates, or if it doesn't. So, either way, thank you for being here. I hope that it helps. Now, let me go ahead and get my decks for a short reading for you. At this time, what I'm going to ask you to do is take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let's take 2 more grounding breaths and connect with your spirit team, your higher self, your ancestors, your angels, God, the universe, whatever that may be, and ask them for a little bit of guidance. Another deep breath. I'm going to be pulling from the healing oracle deck that I have to see what it is that you need to heal at this moment, what it is they're saying. Hey, we see this. This is something we'd like you to focus on, as well as some blockages that may be stopping you. A little bit of tarot to kind of go a little bit deeper on that, and a message from the Spiritual AF deck because I love those. And let's see what they've got to say. Okay. All right. So, what do we have for the collective here? Okay. So, the healing card that came out is number 39. Love has no limits for you. Okay. So, the universe is reminding you that, I mean, I guess this matches up with what I was going over today. Um, it says, life has an abundance of love in store for you. Let yourself receive. And there's an affirmation on the card: I am loved unconditionally. The card number is 39, so that may resonate for you. Maybe you're 39 years old, um, or maybe, you're a March baby or September baby, um, whatever that may be. Love has no limits for you. So we go back to, our own limitations that we set for ourselves, right? When we think about self-love, and we don't have it, right? When we don't feel that love for ourselves, sometimes we do get into a spiral of thinking, well, we don't deserve it. Nobody's going to love me, or maybe it's a matter of you really just don't know where that's going to come from. But the thing is, it is limitless. It is abundantly everywhere. And when you start to love yourself, you start to actually see where that love has been trying to knock on your door and come in the friends that have always been there for you, that maybe you haven't really noticed, that have been consistently there for you, right? Or maybe those family members that are consistently there for you, um, that you have maybe been taking for granted. Not because you're a terrible person, right? But because sometimes when we're in the state of grief and despair and depression, we just don't see it. And we also forget that we're dealing with other human hearts as well. We forget to step outside of ourselves, right? Because we're so deep within ourselves that we also become a little bit selfish. And then, like I said, right, our that affects how we connect with others, all of our other relationships. We don't maybe realize that we're being neglectful of someone, or we're not treating them, we're breadcrumbing them, or we're not being nice to them when they are being consistently just there for us, just trying to give us support, right? Or maybe we're feeling bitter because maybe someone's trying to offer you and pour love into you, and they're in their joy, and it makes you jealous, right? Then you start to feel jealous, like, okay, yeah, well, you can be happy, but I can't. Um, you're not you're not a terrible person. You're not doing that on purpose. It just inherently affects how we show up for ourselves and with others. And sometimes we just don't realize that. We don't see it because there is so much fog. So, what are some blockages here that are stopping you from reaching the abundance that is already out there to give you of love? So, the two blockages cards that I pulled here: wasting resources, says not using your resources or not using them efficiently. So, what they want you to do to break these blockages is evaluate your resources. You have all the tools and resources to advance in life, but you need to use them more effectively to open new opportunities and manifest more money. So, and remember the resources, when we think of resources, like I see a picture of a hand here holding like $100 bill, but it's not just about money. I think we correlate resources to money. It's not just about money, and there are different ways to make money in order to be able to invest in yourself. But the resources are things like this podcast, where I go over different techniques for you for free that you can take and put into action, to help heal yourself, right? Or also in the form of, like what I was saying, your friends, your family that are there to give you that support, not hiding into yourself. And then the other blockage is conflicting desires. Have several completely contradictory desires that cancel each other out. What you want to do is identify the conflict. Only after you have found the reasons for all your conflicting currents and understand the root of this confusion will you be able to have one clear desire going steadfastly in one direction. Yeah, so this is about really sitting down and figuring out the root, right, of your conflict, being radically transparent with yourself, right? It says only after you have found the reasons for all your conflicting currents and understand the root of this confusion will you be able to have one clear desire going steadfastly in one direction. So are you doing something that you don't really want to do? Or are you letting something pass you by that you would really like to dive into, and why? Pourquoi? Is it, are you afraid? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid will happen if you stop doing the thing that you no longer want to do? Or if you do the thing that you actually really want to do? What is it that you're afraid of? Sit down with that and face that. Then another message here from the spiritual AF deck is integrity is the new black. Says integrity means having your actions match your values. Most of the time, integrity takes a lot of not doing stuff, not smacking people, not yelling at people, not talking shit, not stealing stuff, not lying, not littering, and not eating your roommate's last gluten free, soy free, vegan pizza roll. I'm pretty sure that wasn't a run on sentence. When the temptation is strong to do the bad thing, sometimes it helps to write down the good thing and put it in your back pocket. It's hard to justify smacking someone when you have your ass pressed up against the word compassion. Okay, cool. So all roads lead to also radical honesty, radical transparency, and um, and being truly honest with, are you being a person of your word? Are you matching up with and doing the things that spark up that flame of joy within yourself, right? Because um, it's hard to be in a state of love, in a state of joy and happiness when you're doing things that you don't really want to do, when you're doing things that are outside of your value, outside of your out of your values, sorry. But yes, out of outside of your self-value also. That was not an accident, I suppose. So what is the advice here from the universe? I pulled some tarot and I pulled the Ace of Pentacles, the Three of Swords, and the Hanged Man. So what these talk about is so when we talk about the Three of Swords, that is speaking on, you know, disappointment, heartbreak, sadness, grief, sorrow. Um, and what the guidance is don't forget that no matter how much pain you may be feeling, you do have control over the meaning that the pain gives to your experience. So remember what I was saying is, are things happening for us or against us, right? When something happens and let's say, you know, somebody walks away from us, um, rejection is protection. Rejection is redirection, right? It helps us to learn, well, maybe we were over giving in a relationship, you know, and so we need to work on making sure that the next time um, there needs to be balance, right? Or maybe we're doing things where it's not something that we really wanted to do. We're not being honest and living up to our values, our own self values, right? So, and then Ace of Pentacles is about, you know, planting something new, starting something new. It's about new foundations, new opportunities. It's abundance, right? When we go back to love has no limits for you, there is an abundance. So here's the reminder, there is literally an abundance. Um, that is out there ready and waiting for you. And so the hanged man then talks about pause, like taking pause and also seeing things from a different perspective. So back to that one Wayne Dyer quote, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's okay to take pause. It's okay to stop, rest. And in fact, they want you to stop, rest, reevaluate. What are the things that you are doing that are feeding into the narrative that you are not worthy of love? And what are the things that you aren't doing that can help you remember that you are fucking love, that you have so much love to give to yourself, and that there is so much love out there that you are ready and waiting uh, to receive if you let it come in. Okay, well, that's the message that I have for you today. I do hope that somehow, some kind of way, um, some or all of this message will remind you that you are a limitless source of love and you can absolutely shift your life for the better. You just have to choose your hard, because I know that it's a hard thing to do, at least when we first start off. But that's with anything in life that we, start to do that we aren't used to doing. It's hard. All right, guys. Well, I hope that that helps. And until next time, let's choose our hard, stay present, and create a life that we fucking love. Sending you so much love. Bye.